Two men went to the wire that night. I'm 79 years old. Lieutenant, 22 SAS. I was the only one who came back. The official record calls it a successful escape. It doesn't mention the pact we made or the sound of my name when the wire took him. They tell you about honor. They don't tell you that the instinct to live is stronger. I know. I let go of his leg. I kept crawling. And I've spent 50 years with the question of what's harder to survive, the camp or the silence of a man you betrayed. Subscribe if you believe the complicated truth deserves to be heard, not just the clean one. My wife, she passed last year. 50 years we were married. And while I was clearing out the house, I found a box. My box, really, full of things she'd kept for me. And in it, right at the bottom, were the letters. 3 of them. The ones I wrote to him. To Ray. Sergeant Ray Davis. He was repatriated after the armistice, you see. Lived not 20 miles from me for most of his life. He never wrote back. I never told my wife what was in those letters. I never told my commanding officer what really happened at the wire. I never told a bloody soul. The weight of it. It's different to combat. It's knowing what you did. We made a pact, Ray and I, the night before, in the dark, whispering. We don't stop for each other. We agreed. We shook on it. So why have I spent 50 years punishing myself for keeping my word? That's one question, isn't it? Here's another. What's harder to survive? A winter that freezes a man solid in his sleep, or the silence of a man you betrayed? Everyone wants to know how I got out. They read the file. They clap you on the back. No one has ever asked me what it cost. If you think you know these stories, if you've seen the films about Colditz and the rest, stick around. What I'm about to tell you isn't in the books. 1950, the end of November. The whole line at the Chongchan River had just broken, gone. We were a rear guard, C Troop, supposed to be covering the American withdrawal from Kunuri. But there was nothing left to cover. The Chinese weren't an army, not in the way we knew. They were a tide, endless. We fought for 2 days, 2 days and nights. Then the ammunition ran out. You look at your mates, you look at the hills. There's nowhere to go. It wasn't a battle. It was just an ending. A quiet click from your rifle, and then nothing. That's how they took us. 30 of us left standing. The journey to the camp, that was the first test. Days in the back of a canvas-top truck. No food, no water, just the cold and the dark. When they finally pulled the canvas back, the light was gray. Everything was gray. The sky, the snow, the river. Pyup Tong. Camp 5, that's what they called it. The cold was the first thing you felt, a physical weight. Then the smell. I've never been able to describe that smell. Sour millet mostly, but with something sweet and rotten underneath. The smell of dysentery, of men giving up. I saw the wire. I saw the faces of the men already there, and I thought, right, SAS training. Survive, resist, escape. This is what it's for. An old major, a proper officer from the Gloucesters, he saw me on that first day. Looked at the wings on my uniform, what was left of them. He didn't say much, just, "They're not in a hurry, son. You are." Then he walked off. I didn't get it. Not then. I thought I knew the game. Later, I heard men whispering through the thin wall of the hut. They don't ask about the guns, one said. They ask what you think of the Americans. It made no sense. This wasn't in the training manuals. The training was about pain, about breaking you quickly. It wasn't about this slow, patient, quiet dismantling. They took me a week later, maybe 10 days. You lose track. 2 of them came to the hut, in the middle of what passed for night. No words, just a jerk of the head. I followed. The room. It wasn't what you'd think. Not a cellar, just a wooden office. Warmer than the hut. That's the first thing I noticed. A dry, dead heat from a small stove. There was one bulb, a desk, a man sitting behind it. He gestured for me to stand in the middle of the floor. He was small, this man, clean fingernails, and he just watched me for a long time. This I knew how to handle, or I thought I did. I stood straight and gave him the drill. Lieutenant Edward Sobieski, 729301. He let me finish the whole thing. Name, rank, number, date of birth. Set it all into the silence. He didn't interrupt. When I was done, he just nodded slowly. He had a pen in his hand and he tapped it. Once, on the desk, and he looked right at me and said, "Yes, we know all that, Lieutenant. We know who you are. We also know precisely what you were taught to do in this situation. We've read your manuals. All that business about keeping your mind active, reciting poetry. We know the whole syllabus." He used that word, syllabus. It wasn't the threat that got me. It was the word. So academic, so calm. He wasn't playing my game. He was telling me he wrote the bloody rules. After that, they put me in a different hut, solitary. The light was always on, one bare bulb. The food came at strange intervals, sometimes 2 meals an hour apart, then nothing for what felt like a day. They're breaking your clock, your internal clock. I tried to do what the training said, pace out the room, map the walls with my fingers, keep the mind sharp. But the light, it gets inside your head. It smooths everything out. It makes it hard to hold on to a thought. And you start to hear his voice, that calm, reasonable voice. And you start to ask his questions. Not, will I break? That's not the question. The question is, what if there's nothing left to break? It was the sleep thing. They'd worked it out. A science. Not about stopping you sleeping. That's too easy, too brutal. Anyone can resist that. No, this was different. They'd let you get a few hours, just enough. Then they'd wake you, a question, a light in your face. Then leave you. And just as you drifted off again, they'd come back. They knew exactly how many cycles of that it took before your brain just stops connecting things properly, before you can't hold a thought. They weren't trying to break you. They were just trying to make you tired. So bloody tired you'd sign anything, say anything, just for 6 uninterrupted hours. But in the middle of their perfect system, we built our own. They had the guards, the wire, the searchlights, the whole damn compound. We had a wall, and we had the code. 2 taps, pause, 3 taps. That was it. That was the whole thing. H for hello, or help, or hang on. It was the first thing they taught you, not with words, just a tap from the other side. You'd learn the alphabet in an hour, and suddenly you weren't alone anymore. They could listen to our conversations in the yard. They could read our letters. But they couldn't hear the walls talking. The whole camp was alive with it. A secret, bloody network running on nothing but knuckles and hope. Their whole philosophy was built on it, on time. They believed if they controlled your body for long enough, your mind would follow. They had all the time in the world. We had what was left of our lives. What they never understood, what they got completely and utterly wrong, was that you could have 100 men, all alone, who weren't alone at all. That was their mistake. I didn't understand it at first, the tapping. It was just noise to me. Then I understood what it was. A lifeline. They could take everything, and they did. But they couldn't take the 2 taps. They didn't even know it existed. And that's when I knew. We could win. Not the war, just this. It was March, early March, 1951. 4 months in that place. Ray and I had been watching the guards for weeks. Found a blind spot, a dip in the ground near the north fence. It gave us 90 seconds between patrols. The plan was simple. Through the wire, into the woods, and south. The night was cold, the kind of cold that feels sharp in your lungs. The air smelled of pine and frozen mud. And us. We stank of fear. You can taste it, like old pennies. I remember the sound of my own heart, a loud, clumsy drum in the silence. We waited for the patrol to pass, and then the guard went by, his boots crunching on the snow, a steady rhythm. Then he was gone. We moved, kept flat to the ground. The snow was a thin crust over frozen earth. I crawled. Ray was right behind me. I could hear him breathing, short, sharp. We reached the first line of wire. I had the cutters, snapped the first strand. The noise was huge. A gunshot in the dark. We froze. Listened. Nothing. I made the gap, slid through. It tore my jacket. I didn't feel it. Ray started to come through, and then he stopped. A sharp sound, a gasp. The second wire, the hidden one, rusted barbs. It had his leg. The searchlight came on, not a sweep. It snapped right to us. A big, white, dead eye. My heart, it was in my throat. I could hear it in my ears, a frantic hammering. My hands started to shake, couldn't stop them. The light was blinding. I saw Ray's face, just for a second. It was white, a mask of shock. I thought, this is it. This is where I die. Not in some blaze of glory, here, in the filth. 10 feet from a tree line. I pulled on his leg. The wire bit deeper. He whispered my name, just Eddie. The guards were shouting. The dogs started barking. I let go of his leg. I crawled. I just crawled. I didn't look back. I heard him scream my name. Once. Eddie! Then a different sound, not a gunshot, a wet thud. Over and over. I made it to the trees. I ran. I don't remember my feet hurting. I don't remember the branches hitting my face. I just remember the 2 sounds, his voice, and the thudding. For 4 days, that's all I heard. 2 men went to the wire. We made a pact. We don't stop for each other. I was the one who kept my word. I was the one who got out. They took me to an aid station 4 days later. A young American gave me a blanket and a mug of something hot and sweet. Tea, I think. I just remember the steam and the quiet. A different kind of quiet to the camp. My head was empty for the first time in months, except for 2 things. The sound of his voice, my name, and the thudding that came after. A debriefing officer, a captain, clean uniform. He wanted to know everything. I told him what happened at the wire, how Ray got caught. He put a hand on my arm and said, "You did well, son. Don't you worry. We'll get him back. And I nodded. That was it. The start of it. The lie. It started with a nod. I was in a hospital in Japan when the war ended for me. They took 4 of my toes. Frostbite. Funny, I never felt the cold during those 4 days. Not really. When I got back home, I tried to forget. I got married, found a job. Life happens. Then, 2 years later, I saw his name on a list in the paper. Repatriated prisoners, Sergeant R. Davis. He was alive. He was home. I sat at my kitchen table all day, just sat there. Then I wrote the first letter. I tried to explain about the pact, about the spotlight. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I don't know what I asked for. I posted it and waited for a reply that never came. For 50 years, the television has been on in this house. My wife never understood why. She'd go to bed, I'd stay down here, with the noise. It wasn't the dark I was afraid of, it was the quiet. In the quiet, you can hear things. Things you've spent your whole life trying not to. I never went to a single reunion. Couldn't look them in the eye. The ones who came back. They think I'm a hero, the man who got out. But every night, when I close my eyes, I'm back at the wire, and I can feel my hands letting go of his leg. The instinct to live. That's what they never tell you about. It's stronger than loyalty, stronger than honor. It's just stronger. They write the books about men like the ones in Colditz. Clever blokes, always digging, always planning. It makes a good story. Our war wasn't like that. The training was for pain, for a quick fight. It wasn't for the quiet, for the cold, for the slow, grinding pressure of time itself. It didn't have a syllabus for that. Not then. It took them years to understand what the Chinese had figured out. That you don't need to break a man's body. You just need to make him so tired, so hungry, that he breaks his own heart. We all have a story we tell about ourselves, don't we? The one that makes sense. But what happens when you know, deep down, it's not the true one? What does it cost to keep telling it? So, those questions I asked at the start. Why did I punish myself for keeping my word? Because we made that pact for him, not for me. I kept the letter of the law, but I broke the spirit of it. And that's the bit that matters. What's harder to survive, the cold or the silence? The cold ends. The silence of a man you betrayed, that follows you. It sits with you in the quiet. And the last question, what did it cost? It cost the man I thought I was, the SAS soldier. He died by that wire. Someone else crawled away. There are more stories like this one. They're not in the history books. If you think they deserve to be heard, stick around. They list my name as an escapee. They list Ray's as a repatriate. But I've often wondered, which one of us really came home?